Welcome to Always Moving Forward with Renee.
Moving forward.
Good morning and welcome to Always Moving Forward with Renee. And yes, I am Renee, coming to you from Oak Park, Michigan. But before we get started, I want you to remember this because it's very important. The Lord has made this day. Today is the day, and let us rejoice, and rejoice. My co-host today is none other than Darrell Waller. Welcome, Darrell.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, take a few minutes. Get the kids. Get them in front of the TV right now. Text a friend or a family member. Tell them to turn on Comcast Channel 20 Detroit. If they don't have Comcast, they can go to bgntvgospel.com. But you need to turn this show on because what you're going to hear today is something totally different. Something called wheelchair basketball will be a good way to raise everyone's awareness about the sport. Hoop dreams of basketball. Wheelchair basketball is changing lives. Wouldn't you say that?
Oh, it's changed a lot of lives and still doing so.
Okay, it's changing lives. But Darrell is relocating to Florida.
Correct.
He's relocating to Florida. And before he left, I thought about it. I know nothing about wheelchair basketball. And who better to inform us but again, my friend, my husband's friend, none other than Darrell Waller. Because he's been involved in the game. He was involved in the game for several years. So Darrell, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up?
Was born and raised here in the great city of Detroit, Michigan. Grew up primarily on the west side.
Okay, from Detroit, grew up on the west side. Where did you attend high school?
I went to Central for a year. And then back in '73 when they had the teacher strike, I ended up going to school in Columbus, Ohio with my grandparents.
Oh, okay.
Fell in love with the school there, stayed there and graduated.
Okay, good. Did you attend college?
Yes, I came back after graduation from high school, came back to Michigan, went to Albion College.
Okay, Albion, that's way up, isn't it?
No, Albion is about 90 miles west of here, straight out 94.
Oh, okay.
It's 20 miles past Jackson.
Okay, but were you always into basketball?
Actually, no. I was actually a diehard football fanatic. Watched it, played it, was into baseball, and basketball was something I did if I couldn't get anybody to play the first two.
Okay.
And I didn't get to play football because my mother wouldn't allow me to play.
Oh, okay.
And then when I got in high school, I didn't ask.
Okay. Now
So
she was
I did.
afraid that you would get hurt or
Yeah,
something?
she didn't want her baby to get hurt.
Okay. But how did you get involved in wheelchair basketball?
Well, that's an interesting story. I was dating a young lady on the east side of Detroit. I was over there, my car for some reason wouldn't start, so I set out to find somewhere to get it fixed. Happened upon this gas station, and the person who was tending the front counter at the time was actually a wheelchair basketball player himself. He was the mechanic, but the owner of the gas station was out, so he was at the front subbing for him. Saw me walking up, my foot was hurting, I was limping a bit, and so he assumed that I was an amputee, started talking to me about wheelchair basketball, blah, 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 and I'm like, man, look, I just want my car fixed, you know. And then he started talking about how they travel all over the country, then my ears perked up.
Oh, okay, so you
So
like
then I
that
took
part
an
about
interest.
travel.
Oh yeah, I took an
Okay.
interest in. And then he told me that, you know, they practiced at the time over in Livonia. Well, I lived, you know, right at Evergreen and Schoolcraft, not that far away. So I said, well, at the very least, I could go look at it, think, you know, see what I think about it, and
Right.
then I could get them to drop me off at home. And, you know,
So that was a twofold.
Yeah,
Right,
there was a
okay.
method to the madness.
Yes.
And so what ended up happening, I went to practice. One of the players had something going on, he wasn't there, so they said, well, here, use this chair, this guy's not coming, and I got in the chair, didn't have a clue what I was doing. Felt kind of odd because, you know, I had just left school playing college football. And, you know, here are guys, amputees, paraplegics, all sorts of disabilities, and I kind of felt like I was out there taking advantage of people. And so as the practice progressed, and I finally got a chance to get out there and get on the court with them, it soon became apparent that the only person being taken advantage of is yours truly. And so then I got mad. I'm like, I'm not going out like that.
Right.
So I kept coming back.
Oh, okay. So you kept coming back.
Yes.
But, so that was, they had a team.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, and that was the first team you started.
Right.
Okay, what's the name of that team?
The Detroit Sparks.
Okay, are they still playing?
They don't exist anymore, but they are one of the absolute storied organizations in the National Wheelchair Basketball Association.
Okay. Now, the other sport you played was football.
Love football.
So it was only football and basketball.
Well, actually, it was football and baseball,
Oh, okay.
and I didn't play organized basketball until I got with the Sparks.
Okay. All right, good. So, is there a wheelchair basketball league?
Absolutely. It's called the National Wheelchair Basketball Association. There are close to 300 teams across the U.S. and
Oh,
a few in
okay.
Canada, actually, that are part of the league.
Okay. Because it's some guy named Anderson or something in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Patrick Anderson.
Okay. Yeah.
Phenomenal.
I did a little research and I remember the name Anderson. But can anyone play, and I guess so, wheelchair basketball?
Actually, no.
Oh, no?
You do have to have a disability of some sort, generally a lower body disability that will prevent you from participating in what we call able-bodied sports.
Okay.
And the range can be from, you know, paraplegics up to, like myself, who is one of the least disabled people who was born with no toes. And so, even though that's a minimal disability, it qualified me to play.
Okay. So that qualified you to play. So parents, uncles, aunt, grandparents, you hear that if you have a young one who has a disability, a lower part disability, they can play that sport because you know you have so many kids, so many young people who want to be involved, but they think they can't. They think they can't, but Darrell is here to tell you that they can. And that's why it's important that they watch this show today, because Darrell is giving you some very valid information. Okay, so Darrell, now, how do you make a living with that? You know, do you get paid doing that?
No. The short answer is no. There is no compensation here in the United States to play wheelchair basketball.
But, okay, not in the United States, but they could go to Canada?
I'm not sure about Canada, but I know all across Europe there are teams that do pay. And actually, I happen to be the first American to go overseas and play basketball.
Oh, okay, you were the first American? Oh, Okay, so
Went and played in Italy for a couple of years.
Was the pay good there?
Life was good there. I mean, it was, it was actually more than I expected it to be. And when I was contacted about going to Italy, I actually did not think of being paid because I was raised with this sport being an amateur sport. So when I told them, they asked what I wanted, I told them that I wanted a car, a job, and a place to stay.
Okay, and they provided you
All
with
of
that.
that. And so what ended up happening though in Europe, and specifically I know in Italy, it's difficult for a foreigner to get a job there. If you can't get a job that a local can do. So if
And
you are not,
why is that?
that's
What's
just
the barrier
it's
there?
a protectionist. It's protectionism. So if I'm doing the same job an Italian can do, the Italian is going to get the job. Plain and simple. But because I played wheelchair basketball, that was something that's a specialty, so to speak. And so what ended up happening, the person who brought me over ended up paying me what he thought I would make.
Oh, okay.
And so that's how I ended up getting paid.
Okay. Well, do you see a change in the future or anything?
Well, there was a group out of, I think, Seattle or Sacramento, I don't remember which, about 3 years ago, talking about putting together a professional wheelchair basketball league. As far as I know, it didn't go very far. And one of the drawbacks was that, these guys were very good marketers, but they knew nothing about the sport. And unfortunately, they didn't really bring in or at least work with people who had a true understanding of the game and what this whole thing would take to pull off, So they ended up fizzling out.
Okay, so that didn't work. But tell our listeners, our viewers, what other wheelchair sports are?
Oh, well, there's wheelchair softball, there's wheelchair football, there's quad rugby, there's all types of wheelchair sports, and then there's all type of other adaptive sports. So just about any sport that's competed is adapted to people with disabilities.
Oh, okay. And the young ladies can play that
Oh,
sport
absolutely.
too, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, any of those sports you
Oh,
mentioned.
absolutely.
So, with wheelchair basketball and stand-up basketball, it's a big difference.
Oh, tremendous difference.
It's a real big difference.
Right. I mean, the game, they're both basketball. The biggest difference between stand-up basketball and wheelchair basketball is the fact that one, wheelchair basketball players can't jump, right? And two, wheelchairs do not move laterally.
Okay.
So, players standing up, they can go from side to side,
Right.
that type of thing. Wheelchairs don't do that. So wheelchairs can only go in the direction forward or back.
Okay.
And so if you need to go over here, you got to turn and go over there.
Okay. Now, the wheelchairs, they're different from wheelchairs that are on the street.
Oh, absolutely. They're specifically designed for athletic competition. They're lightweight. The wheels sit at an angle like this.
Right.
And that's for two purposes. One, it gives the chair more stability because it widens the wheelbase, but it also protects the hands because the point of contact is down near the floor because the wheel's sitting here. So when another chair comes up, the wheel is going to hit the other wheel down near the floor. So your hands are going to be pretty safe.
Okay, and your body is strapped in?
Now they are. When I first started playing, no one wore straps.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we made it work.
Okay, but
Now I
guess-
couldn't imagine playing without one.
Right, right. Tell me, when did you start now?
I was introduced to the sport in October of 1978.
Wow, that's a long time there.
You think?
I think it is. That's a long time to play.
Yes, it's been quite a journey.
Okay, now you said you liked the part where you could travel.
Oh yeah, I love travel.
Okay, where has wheelchair basketball taken you?
Oh man, I probably have played in, I think, at least 32 states across the U.S. I've been, of course, to Canada, I've been to Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, France, Spain, Holland, Belgium. Of course, I lived in Italy, Switzerland, I played over in Korea.
Okay, you've been a lot of places.
Yeah, I've been a lot of places.
You've been a lot
Australia.
of places. Oh,
Yeah.
wow, okay. Yeah, it's big in Australia.
Yes.
Right, yeah, that's what I read too. It's
Yeah.
big. Yes, I did my homework
Yes,
a little
you
bit
did.
now. But tell me, since you have so much experience, do you see yourself maybe working with someone to make a change? You know, where this sport can be recognized to the point in the United States, to the point where they get paid for it.
Well, there are a lot of challenges involved. You know, like I said, when I lived over in Europe, the perception for wheelchair athletes or people with disabilities in general is much different than it is here. You know, here, unfortunately, our society kind of looks at people with disabilities with pity, you know,
Yeah.
oh, you know, there, but by the grace of God go I type of attitude. Even when, oftentimes when there's a report or something done on wheelchair sports or basketball, it's usually from a human interest angle instead of a sports angle.
Mm-hmm.
So the mentality first has to change. But then the other piece is that in the United States, there's such a great demand for discretionary dollars. Unlike Europe, they're much different pace. You know, they have 3 primary sports. The first and foremost is soccer.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Then basketball and volleyball are kind of next in that order. And then they have other stuff as well, but, you know, I mean, they don't go to the movies and, you know, do the types of things we do for entertainment as much as we do here. You know, and then they don't have, for example, high school and college sports there.
Oh, no?
No. What they do is a professional team in a specific sport will recognize kids at an early age and see that they're, you know.
Take them under their wing.
Yeah, and they bring them in, basically put them in boarding school.
Okay.
And they play for that organization, but it's not relative to the school. Schooling is separate.
Okay.
So it's a much different concept than we have here. So, I mean, with all of those things, you know, they don't have the amusement parks, just all of the things that are pulling that dollars.
Right.
And so they tend to really support wheelchair sports and basketball specifically, whereas with us, not so much.
Okay, well, with your knowledge of the sport, I know that you've done some coaching.
I've done coaching. I've coached teams. I've actually run camps. I've done all of that, so absolutely. And I love coaching.
You love
I
coaching?
love coaching.
You love regulating?
No, I just love, you know, because
Okay.
I've gotten so much from the sport that I just enjoy giving back.
Okay.
And, you know, but just coaching in general can be challenging.
Right.
Because, you know, people oftentimes think they know better than the coach does.
Oh, yeah, that's in life general.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
And so, but you know, you deal with it and you keep moving on.
Right. Now, tell me this. if if we have some young people out there that are watching and they want to get into the sport, how could they get into it?
Okay, well, locally, there is a juniors program, and that's for kids, I think, from 8 to 18. I'm not sure who runs the organization now, because there were a couple of them, and I think they merged. And so I'm not sure how to go about getting in contact with them. But there's an adult team as well, and they're sponsored by the Rehab Institute of Michigan, RIM. And if you have a child who plays, you can contact RIM and get in touch with the person who runs their basketball program, and they can steer you. If you have a child, they can steer you to get in touch with the team.
They can steer you in that direction.
Absolutely.
There. Okay, but listeners and viewers, I want to say that give me a call, 313-657-5556. Let me know that you watched the show. Or you can email me at GWEALTHS111@gmail.com. Let me know how you like the show. Or if you need prayer, call or email me. I look forward to hearing from you. But let's get back into these questions, because we only have Darrell, because he'll be leaving us shortly. But we talked about other wheelchair sports, and we talked about you playing other sports. But when you were playing, what was your best strength in the game? For example, guard, dribbling, or center, or what was it?
Well, my primary position, of course, was center, being one of the taller players in the game. But I could play any position. One of my biggest strengths was, of course, my height. But I was also, as a younger player, I was pretty fast, and just had a real good court sense or understanding of the game, and so it served me very well.
So I know that basketball players and other sports, they practice a lot. But the wheelchair basketball, how many times did you practice a week?
Generally, most teams will try to get at least 2 practices a week, and that's just because, court time can be challenging to get, and, so we would practice twice a week. And there was a period in my career, though, that I probably played basketball 11 months out the year for about 6-7 years.
Wow, okay. But I know the game, the wheelchair basketball, is just as intense, fast-paced, and competitive as the standing version. And I think the best way, like you said earlier, how you got started, you went and you watched the game, then you played the game, and what other better way to learn than to just get on into it?
Right, you got to, it's like going swimming. The best way to get in the water is just to dive in. You
Right.
stick your toe in and all that kind of foolishness. You may get in, you may not.
Right.
But if you jump in, then you're committed.
Okay, but tell me this, what tips would you give to someone, these young people out here that say, I want to play?
Well, obviously the first thing they have to do is connect with the team. Secondly, one of the things that I think for me is most important is that you have to be coachable. I mean, this is a new sport for people. Even if you played basketball in the past, and if you ended up in a wheelchair and started playing wheelchair basketball, this is a new sport for you.
Right.
And so you have to be coachable because you don't know the sport. And
Yes.
so allow yourself to be taught the sport, to learn the sport, and, and just work hard,
Right.
Gotta commit, gotta sacrifice if you want to be successful at anything.
Okay. I have a couple of more questions. But when you were on the court, in the wheelchair, were you afraid of anything? You know, afraid of getting hurt or...
I grew up on the streets of Detroit. I wasn't afraid of a wheelchair. No.
Okay, wasn't afraid, but I'm quite sure the wheelchair, they do run into you and...
Yeah.
Okay, and especially during that time you said you all were not strapped in.
That's right. But you know, the thing is, I mean, basketball, which I came to learn later, basketball is a contact sport. So yeah, there's going to be contact.
Okay, well, we know
you will see
this.
players knocked on the floor and all kind of stuff. And just get back in your chair and keep playing. You know, just like when a standing player falls down, they don't just lay there, they get up and keep playing. So it's no different.
Okay. Boy, but you know what, Darrell, and I call him Darrell because that's why I messed up on the last name there, because I'm so used to saying Darrell. But it's been, you know, a real pleasure to have you as my co-host today. And I know that you will enjoy Florida.
Absolutely.
No more snow.
That's
no
part of the
more
plan.
winter clothes.
Part of the plan.
You know, just to lay out there on the beach and enjoy yourself. But I do want to say, again, it has been a pleasure, and there's so many more questions I do have. We're going to bring Darrell back for part 2. So as I always end my show, God loves you and so do we. So until next week. Okay, you see Darrell put that big hand up there. Okay, thanks Darrell. You enjoy Always Moving Forward with Renee.
Moving forward.
What's up, everybody? This is your girl, Vicki Winans, and you're watching Bell Global Network.
Hi, everybody. I'm telling you, everything that happened to me that was good, God did it. I'm Evelyn Turrentine, AG, and you're watching the Bell Global Network.
This is Pastor D. Alexander Bullock of Preachers of Detroit, and you're watching the Bell Global Network.
This is Bishop Edgar Van of Second Ebenezer Church in Detroit, Michigan, and you're watching the Bell Global Network.
Hi, I'm Bernadette Stanis. You know me best as Thelma from the TV show Good Times, and you are watching Bell Global Network.
Hi, I'm Clifton Davis, and you're watching Bell Global Network.